The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Scarefest Radio, the radio you can see.
And hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Scarefest Television. The original broadcast date is January 29th, 2021. Yes, we've burned through another month of lockdown. So, I got some stuff tonight. Now, on top of our lovely guest, Tonya Webb, we are going to be talking about a little bit towards the end of the show. I got to see the new convention center today. I got to see the construction of the new convention center today, and I got to visit the Lex Live. That's a big entertainment complex that we're going to be taking advantage of. We will have a celebrity announcement after the 30-minute mark, if you were wondering, and it's one we announced last year. Got him signed up for this year, and it's one of our good ones, our popular ones, the ones that you caused the most disappointment when we had to cancel. So, I'll cover all that stuff at the 30-minute mark, but right now we're going to go ahead and get to our guest, Tonya. Oh, by the way, Chad Harlan you don't have to switch to him. Chad Harlan's co-hosting, because he does the paranormal stuff. Hi, Chad.
Hi, how are you all?
Oh, everybody's just peachy. Anyway, yes, and as pointed out in the chat room, in honor of your appearance tonight, Tonya, I got a haircut.
Yay. Oh, thank you.
And amazingly, no bald spots.
Good.
I was really worried. My hair has lockdown has been hard on my hair. But anyway, although, when she cut my hair, apparently she only cuts the gray part because that's all that lands in my lap is gray hair. And, so anyway, on to our guest now, everybody. Now, Tonya, you are co-owner of the old hospital on College Hill and Nurses College. Now, when I should have loaded some pictures of it. The Nurses College is that building that sets off to the side of it, kind of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's actually the first building you see when you come up on the hill before you get to the hospital.
Now, I will say you do have something going for you. I understand you were actually born in the building.
I was.
So you got that going for you. What possesses a person to purchase a used hospital?
Well, that's a very good question. Like you said, I was born in the hospital, so I have that emotional connection with it as well. I lost two grandparents in that hospital that I never actually got to meet. So when I found out that these two structures were coming up for sale, I just felt like it was something that I need to do, not only personally, just to kind of save the history behind it. Just to give you a little bit of background about it, these buildings were built in 1927 and 1928, so they're nearly 100 years old. So as you can imagine, all the things that this hospital and this nurses college has seen over the decades and the eras, I wanted to be able to preserve that and make it something special, not only for me, but for my city as well.
How long did it actually sit empty? When did it close, and when did you all get to go back in there and mess around?
Well, it operated as a hospital for quite a long time. When it shut down as a hospital, it remained open as a pediatric office, and then some doctors did some practices in there. The actual building itself, I don't think actually closed until 2014. I also serve as the vice president of our tourism board in the area. So when some local owners bought it back a few years ago, we had went to them and asked them to do some kind of tours and just haunted things for the month of October, because there was so much interest in these buildings and people were just always asking us, how do you get in there? A lot of people had been born there and were just kind of wanting to get back in there. So the local owners at that time allowed us in 2019 to allow tours, guided tours, and like the history of it and some paranormal stories and things like that. And it was a huge hit. So that was my first getting back involved with it, was 2019. Never dreamed I would own it in 2020, but things happen for a reason. So, it all worked out.
So in other words, it didn't really sit empty for any amount of time.
Probably they used it for storage, I think, from 2014 until 2019. So It kind of sat empty until then. Nobody's really been back in the building until we opened it back up in 2019 for tours. And that was just for a week.
Chad, over to you.
Good evening. So you got this building fairly recently. Was your primary motivation to getting that to preserve the history, or was it because of paranormal interest and information that you had?
A little bit of both. I'm a history geek, but I'm also a paranormal and ghost hunter, and I'm all into the spooky stuff. And this hospital, I don't know if you guys have ever seen pictures of it. It just screams creepiness. I mean, there's not a thing I got to do to it. I mean, but, to be as old as it is still really well preserved. There's no big holes in the floor. There's nothing like that. So I felt when I was in there in 2019, I feel like these buildings have stories they need to tell and want to tell. So, and just some of the things that I experienced when I was in there, and then when we were doing tours, some of the clients and customers that went through there, the pictures that they got, the stories that they come back and told me, and some of my other staff members that were helping us, it just blew our minds. I mean, I knew then it was really something special. And then in 2020, we got to open it up for a small amount of time, and we had a celebrity guest come in, and that was Tony Moran. And he was in there for a little while, so it brought more people in, and they got to experience some stuff, and then even Tony did, and it was just, to me, it was just amazing. It was just, something I just felt like I couldn't pass up. I thought, I'll give it a shot. If I can make it work, great. If I don't, then I've got a hospital.
You said you had a history with paranormal and ghost hunting. Kind of where did your interest come from, and how did you get started in that?
Well, I've always, ever since I was a little girl, I've always been fascinated with it. I've always been a big horror fan, and paranormal things that had happened to me over the years, things that I could see or predict and things like that. It was one of those things when you're growing up, you kind of push to the back burner because you don't know if they're really real or not. You don't really know if you want to tell anybody. But as I got older, and then especially being with this hospital, it's kind of just come to a point where I've accepted it, and here it is, and I've made friends with the ghosts that are in there. Some days they're happy to see me, and some days they're not. So, it just depends. But to me, it was just, a story I felt like needed to be told, and just to kind of reach a crowd that I think a lot of people really, and especially in my area, you don't really hear that much about. We're in Williamson, West Virginia, and I know West Virginia has a few places that are hot spots for paranormal, like Trans-Allegheny and the Sweet Springs and the penitentiary. But my hospital, I think, has just as much as what they have to offer, and just so many stories. I can't wait for people to get in there and start seeing and ghost hunting.
So would that just give us a little bit of idea what kind of experiences you had? Mainly calm stuff of people's loved ones, or is there anything really kind of creepy and terrifying going on in there?
A little bit of all of it, honestly. The hospital has a basement, a first floor, second floor, third floor, and an attic. And I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but each floor for me kind of brings a little bit of different emotion on different floors. My favorite floor, and I believe the creepiest floor, is the basement. Some people may disagree with me, but there was a lot that went on in the basement. And you got to remember, this hospital was built in the 20s. So they had a section of the hospital. What I find more fascinating about this hospital is there was a section of this hospital that's it was sectioned off from some of the employees. So like, it's not, once you go down the steps, it's not like visual to, you have to kind of find this little place. And of course, me being me, I had to go everywhere and search everything. And then when I started doing research on it, they have a room there called the incinerator room. And I really didn't know what that was at the time because, you know, I was born there in 73. So that 28 was a little bit before my time. So when I started doing research about it, there were stories about, you know, back in the 20s and 30s, you know, there were a lot of coal mining accidents, farmland accidents, a lot of amputations, and they had no way to dispose of those body parts. So they would take those body parts and put those in the incinerator and burn them. There was also history where if a homeless person or somebody passed away at the hospital and nobody came to claim them during that time, they would burn those bodies in the incinerator. So when I went in there and to visualize all this, I'm already in the basement, but to get into this room, you have to take a step down. So you're going even further. I felt like I was in a scene of Nightmare on Elm Street. I felt like Freddy Krueger was going to come out any minute now. But this big incinerator sits over to the corner, and there's 3 doors to it. And when I stepped down in it and I opened those doors and I still saw those ashes, I mean, all this emotion about, you know, who was in there and who passed away here. I mean, people's legacy, you know, people's lives. I mean, they were still there, and it was just very moving for me and very touching. And it made me want to kind of keep that and keep their, you know, respect their wishes and keep their legacy alive, basically. So, you know, the basement for me is just one of those that I think a lot of paranormal investigators will find, I hope, very interesting. There's also an x-ray room down there that we got a lot of activity in. I remember specifically, it's down at the end of the hall, and you have one on your right and one on your left, and it's one of those old-timey x-ray rooms, so you can imagine. But I remember some of our guests that went through there, a couple of them had come back to me and told me that strange things were going on in that room, and it was freaking people out. So I went in there to see what was going on, and like a tour guide at the time, like her flashlight would go out, but the minute she stepped out of the room, it'd come back on. The temperature in the room would change, like it'd go from being okay warm to really cold to where you could see your breath. And then one guy who told me he was a medium said he actually saw a man standing in the corner, and he was upset because we were in there. He didn't want us in there, basically. And then a staff member of ours that was down there kind of helping, just kind of monitoring and doing security and just kind of watching, she saw a man's face in the wall. So those 2 rooms to me were just, you know, along with the incinerator room, the basement to me is just incredible and just a sight to, I could probably spend hours in there and not have to come back up. But like I said, each floor has its own kind of, you know, story. And, you know, the 3rd floor was the maternity floor. So you had children on there, some that passed away, some that, you know, there's stories that you can still hear the children running. The elevator in this hospital, I also have to say, is one of the creepiest elevators you'll ever see. It's the original elevator that was built in the 20s. So it's one of those old gates, and then it's 2 doors. So when you close it, you're behind that. So when you either have to push the number on the inside or somebody has to be on the floor to stop the elevator. And for some reason, this elevator likes to stop on the 3rd floor a lot. And you can hear like little feet running or kids giggling. And we didn't have kids there, so I'm not sure why. I don't know if they were having fun with us or what, but that, you know, stuff like that is just amazing, and I love telling those kind of stories.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about those after we get done with this break.
Horror. Movies. fans. 4. Life. On Facebook. Find us. 4 watch parties. 4 news. 4 memes. 4 friends. 4 life. Horror movie fans for life. Join us.
Mama Ruby offers fun vendor-based events that focus primarily on the metaphysical and spiritual aspects of our lives. Well, 2020 didn't go as planned, to say the least. Since Mama Ruby's can't bring the vendors to you in person, they still encourage you to support them online. For links to these and other outstanding artists, craftspeople, vendors, and psychics, visit mamarubies.com and click shop.
Hey Scarefest fans, this is Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly. This one's kind of a review and an essay on my own thoughts of this cult, if you will. This week I want to review, it's a 4-part miniseries. Many of you have already seen it. It's on Netflix, Meredith, so you can watch it. It's called The Night Stalker. And no, it's not about Darren McGavin chasing vampires in Vegas. Night Stalker, The Hunt for a Serial Killer. It's a pretty good documentary. It's a little flashy. It's a little, anybody remembers this A&E? It's a little bit of like A&E documentaries back in the day. Too many slow pans, too many here, but it basically follows talking heads, the detectives, 2 of the detectives, who one was younger, one was older. Please forgive me, I'm not going to go into the names, and how they tracked him. A lot about the shoes that ended up helping them, the specific types of shoes. They interview some of the victims' families. They interview one poor lady who, you know, he abducted her as a little girl, and I'm not going to go into more of that because I just don't want to talk about it. And I enjoyed it. There was a few things that I learned that I didn't know. Most of the killing took place in 1985. I'm sure somebody out there is going to correct me. I'm not going to give out numbers of what all he did or didn't do. He was pretty vicious. He was hard to catch because he didn't necessarily have a modus operandi, an MO. There were the young, there were old, there were men, there were women. He abducted children and would sometimes molest them and let them go, and him claiming to be a Satan worshiper and all that. I enjoyed the documentary. Like I said, it was educational. It's a little overdone, but I liked learning more about it. Now, I know a lot of you all out there are true crime fans. I'm a true crime fan to a certain extent. We get on Bonehead Weekly some requests to talk about our favorite serial killers. And we don't do that because I refuse, because I don't have a lot of morals, but I do have this one of, I refuse to give any of these assholes more airtime, because a lot of them are looking for attention and they can just suck it. Because these people ruined and destroyed people and families and lives, and I refuse to talk about them for the most part. I'll talk about movies about them a little bit. I'll talk about like this documentary. I understand why people find serial killers fascinating. I truly do. These people are awful. They're truly awful. I don't have a favorite serial killer because they're all fucking awful. They're terrible, terrible pieces of shit. I know. Wes, sorry about that. If you need to bleep me or just let me know. How do these men find groupies? Why are certain people attracted to these men? Richard Ramirez was not only a murderer, he's a pedophile. He abducted children and molested them. And he still had groupies of men. I'm assuming mainly women is what I saw. Don't want to be sexist, but mainly women. Maybe there's some men throwing themselves and writing him letters and talking about how much they loved him and how cool he was. And I cannot wrap my mind around it. In fact, when they get towards the 4th episode of this series, it was talking about the groupies and the fascination. 2 things I can't comprehend in life. 1, murdering a stranger. Why? Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but someone does you wrong and you try to do something wrong. That's revenge. I don't think it's right, but I can wrap my mind around it. You shouldn't hurt anyone. Just hurting strangers. That's 1. 2, how could somebody want to sleep with these people? How could they still just be obsessed with them? I don't know. It's driving me crazy. And I know this is a little different. I usually just do reviews and make a few jokes, but it's driving me crazy because I can't wrap my mind around how these people, sick people following other sick people. If you have hate mail, send it to Evil Joe at Twitter or Joe Lewis on Facebook, either one. If you have ideas of why I can't understand or comprehend this, and you can explain it to me of how these people have groupies, please let me know. How did Richard Ramirez, who didn't have a straight tooth in his head, have groupies? This has been Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly, a little different. Hope I didn't upset you too much. Thank you so much, Scarefest.
And welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest Television. We're talking tonight to Tonya Webb of the old hospital on College Hill. And incidentally, I would just call it the College Hill Hospital because it Googles either way. Now, first of all, I wanted to say all basements are creepy. Unless they're finished with a rec room, we've got a local theater. And yes, the basement is the creepiest part of the building, even if it is not the most haunted. I did want to go to your notes here. One of the things that people ask you about hospitals, in particular abandoned hospitals, are they really haunted? I would say I'm surprised when I find any hospital, period, that is not haunted. You get the best ghost stories from nurses that are working in hospitals. That's, yes. I mean, so it is, I guess, I don't even know if this is a question. Do you have any reason to be surprised that it's haunted? How do you feel about it? Since you brought that up, how do you feel about hospitals being haunted?
Well, I was kind of surprised that I get asked that question a lot. And considering, like you said, what happens in a hospital, and because there are so many deaths, some tragic, some not, I would just assume, like you do, they all are. With mine, we know it is, just because of the things that we've seen and experienced and things like that. But you're right. A lot of our best stories have come from workers and employees that actually work there and seen things themselves or had been patients there. I'm trying to keep a documentary of people that were there in the past, and some of the stories that they have told me is just amazing. It's just unreal. The most popular one is the nurse that never clocked out. I get a lot about her.
The nurse that never clocked out.
Yes.
I mean, okay, don't keep us in suspense. Did she just did she drop dead, or she didn't work there in the first place, or what happened?
Well, the story goes that she was hurt in an automobile accident and died at the hospital somewhere around the 50s and 60s. We're not quite sure. We're still researching that. But apparently she passed away and never left the building. I've had so many people tell me, one of the stories that sticks out in my head was a lady had reached out to me and said that she was in labor, and a nurse had came into her room and told her, "You still got a few days, you're going to be fine, go ahead and pack your bags, we'll discharge you." So she gets up and starts packing her bags, and she's getting ready to leave. And as she was leaving, the real nurse at the station said, "Where are you going?" And she said, "Well, that nurse told me to pack my bag and leave." And she said, "Honey, I'm the only one on the shift this tonight." So there were so many stories like that matched hers. So we knew she was still there. But I think the most, and a lot of people, their stories, and I understand that, but we had a guest that went through the hospital, went through the tours. And I think it was on Halloween night in 2019, because we had a lot of activity on Halloween night. There was so much that happened in there. She stepped outside the hospital to take a picture with her iPhone. And these two buildings are side by side, but there's a little space in between that overlooks the city, and it's a beautiful view. And she took 2 quick pictures with her iPhone. The first one, nothing. She didn't capture anything. The second one, if you look over to the far left, the image that she captured is just, we shared it on our Facebook page. We have it on our website page. It looks like a nurse back in that era with her hair pulled back, the uniform. It looks like she's trying to enter the building where the ER used to be. So she couldn't, as soon as she called it, she come running back to us to tell us about it, and we couldn't believe it. You can tell it's not doctored or altered in any way. It's truly just a picture she caught with her phone, and it's amazing. So we think that's the nurse that never clocked out.
Now, before I toss over Chad, okay, now the reason, now this is popular theory, it's not proven, of course, but a lot of us believe that in a hospital, basically every time a life comes into this world or out of this world, it makes a little pinprick in what we would commonly call the veil. And a hospital would just have so many of those little pinpricks in the veil that it creates kind of a easy in and out. So in other words, a lot of your ghosts may not even be hospital residents. The ones that were hospital employees, patients, would have a very easy time hanging around there because of the energy exchange. So that's why, and that's also, once again, it doesn't have to be abandoned. That's just something that happens. I've seen the picture on the website. Everybody, if you want to play the home version, collegehillhospital.com, go to the stories and you'll see the picture she's talking about. And yes, that is a person. That's one, because you're talking about the picture, there's a picnic table in frame, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
she's over to the left of it, entering the building. It's amazing.
They did not mistake a coat rack, assuming that the lady was accurate and there was nobody walking through there. And it does look like she described the old style nurse's clothing. Tell you what, let's go ahead and go to commercial break, and I'll toss it straight to Chad after we do our announcements, and he can have a little uninterrupted time with our guest.
TellMeTarot.com. Rare tarot and oracle decks for the discerning enthusiast or collector. Our decks are not for everyone. If you are a rare deck collector, art collector, or simply fall in love with a deck, then we might be for you. Right now, get 10% off your first order just for subscribing to their newsletter. Shipping is just $5.99 in the United States. TellMeTarot.com.
Spirit Mechanics is here to help. Their background includes many different specialties across the metaphysical spectrum, including alchemy, shamanism, Celtic witchcraft, angelic magic, astral travel, and more.
With over 30 years combined experience in the group, you can be confident in their ability to help. If there is a question you have that you cannot answer, they will do their best to assist you.
Metaphysics can be intimidating, confusing, and unfortunately, abused. Spirit Mechanics takes pride in being selfless in the pursuit of helping others, being humble and honest with their clients about their questions, and lastly, maintaining a professional and personable atmosphere. They want you to feel as you are coming to a close friend, and they will do everything in their power to make you comfortable and safe.
January 24th, 1989. It's 7 in the morning. Hundreds of people are gathered outside a Florida prison, and the crowd erupts in cheers. and celebration as a white hearse is seen leaving the prison. Inside the hearse is the body of infamous serial killer Ted Bundy. His reign of terror was finally over. Before his execution, Bundy was responsible for the rape, torture, and murder of at least 30 women across the U.S. Bundy was also credited in helping the FBI profile and ultimately capture the Green River Killer, and he helped shape criminal profiling as we know it today. And welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest Television. We've got some stuff to talk about here. Got to do a little business. Okay, first up, our guest announcement for Scarefest 2021 is Tony Todd. Tony Todd, the Candy Man himself. So we've got him re-signed for this year. Now, while we're doing this stuff, we got hotels. 2 of our hotels have released their Scarefest blocks. Residence Inn. Now, we will have web links for these on the website this weekend. If you don't want to call, we will get, in other words, where you can book it online and not have to go through a bunch of stuff. But anyway, the Residence Inn, incidentally, just so, to give you a little point of reference here, Residence Inn rooms will be $209 a night. $209 per night, and this will be in the extended stay part of the hotel. That means you get a kitchen. You can fit like a dozen people in the room. Now, the other hotel that's already come forward is the Hilton. The Hilton, that's one of our most popular hotels. Of course, it is right catty-cornered to the convention center. They're giving us a pretty good room rate this year. Where did I see it at? Well, heck, I guess it was on the webpage. They didn't put it in their letter. So I can't tell you, but I think it was it was just a hair under $200 a night. So the Hilton, you can go ahead and book with them if you want to go ahead and get in on it, but we do have room blocks, and I'll have those on thescarefest.com this weekend. Also, I've been asked to remind you, speaker applications are now online. Go to thescarefest.com, click the speaker button, and there's an application there that you can fill out. It's a Google document, I believe, as you kids say. But we are taking speaker applications. We are going to have seminars running all weekend. May not have as many as in the past because we're just going to take one room, I think, and just run it daylight to dark speakers. And then finally, I do want to mention Central Kentucky Mystical Market for February has been canceled because COVID sucks. Now, over to Chad Harlan and our guest, Tonya Webb.
Tonya, like we were talking about speakers, I know that you've been working on putting something together to speak about at Scarefest. Can you give me a little bit of an overview of what you're planning, what your topic plan is?
Sure. Wes actually touched on it a little bit. Wanted to, just kind of introduce the hospital to everybody since it is a new haunted location for people to come and visit, and to answer the question that I get asked the most: is abandoned hospitals haunted, or hospitals haunted in general? I know hospitals don't come available or open to the public very often in this kind of manner. So I think it's very unique, and I think a lot of people will be curious to hear the stories of, the deaths that occurred there, the history behind it, and where this hospital is located gives so much, I think, to the stories that this place has to tell that I think a lot of people will find fascinating. For instance, if anybody's into history and knows about the Hatfield-McCoy feud, this is where this hospital is located. It's located in Mingo County, West Virginia. If you Google Mingo County, our nickname is Bloody Mingo. So many deaths, so many wars, so many feuds, and my hospital was part of that. So I think along with the history and the paranormal stories and the fact that it's still, in good shape to be 100 years old, I really want to be able to share this with people that are into the paranormal, or maybe even to the historic side of it, both of it, and let people see for themselves. Plan to bring pictures of it, videos that things that have been captured there, and just kind of give everybody what this hospital has to offer and answer any questions they have.
You told us a little bit earlier about the basement and some of the stuff that goes on, and you started to talk about the third floor. So what's going on the third floor? What kind of happenings are caught and picked up there?
The third floor is a little, as I was telling you earlier, it was a maternity floor, so there were children there. But if anybody watches Destination Fear on the Travel Channel, they were there this past October, and they filmed, and they focused on a story of a gentleman by the name of Mose Blackburn. Mose shot and killed a city police officer back in 1962. And of course, when backup showed up, there was a little physical altercation that went on there, and Mose was brought to this hospital for care. While he was there, there was the stories that we found in the newspaper and what goes along with it. There was a deputy that was assigned outside of his door, and he had asked the deputy to go get him a drink of water. And when he did, he allegedly took off running and jumped out the third story floor window. However, there are also stories that he didn't jump, he was thrown. There are also stories that something chased him out or that he was haunted by something. The odd thing about this is he didn't pass away immediately. They went and got him, brought him back to the hospital. He was expected to make a full recovery. He lasted for about a month and then passed away. So they believe that the ghost of Mose is still there. Destination Fear kind of hit on that a lot. And there are some weird things that happen. You will hear doors shut. You will see shadows. It may be Mose, it may be somebody else, but the third floor just had a lot of different, the way that hospital is laid out, it was so many things over so many different times that, it's kind of served a little bit of everything. So his story, I think Mose's story was kind of the most popular from that third floor. So, we really don't know what happened to him, but I think he's still there.
My wife's got blackburns in her family tree, so I may have to go back and see if he's a cousin.
Yes, ask her. Mose Blackburn was his name. It was 1962. He passed away in 1962.
Let me toss it back over to Wes for a few minutes.
Okay, first question. What exactly is a Mingo? What is a Mingo?
That's just the name of our county.
No, it was named after something or somebody.
We were actually part of Logan County, and then we broke off and became our own county. We are the youngest county in West Virginia, but saying that, we are also the most historic, probably the bloodiest and the goriest county of all of them in West Virginia. A lot of things has happened here, so. I'm guessing Mingo came from the Indian side of it because we have a Chief Logan that's in front of our coal house when you first come into town. So we have that history as well. So if you Google it, like I said, it'll show up Bloody Mingo and it'll tell you all kinds of good stuff.
And probably still won't tell me who Mr. Mingo was. Anyway, now one thing I did like, I noticed it. I watched some YouTube stuff on it, and it might be, and you may have had some shots on the website, but it looked to me like, because it was recently a hospital, that a lot of the original fixtures are still in the building.
Yes.
I think that, well, that adds to the ambiance, if nothing else. But it also creates that familiarity that can hold on to, like the nurse that didn't clock out. So in other words, I like the atmosphere already, having never been there. Let's see here. How do you, okay, now this is from one ghost hunter to another. When I was ghost hunting my local hotspot, I took it on myself. I wanted to catalog every ghost in the place. Have you set about, in other words, I know you kind of identified the one nurse according to the stories, and the one you called Mose. Is that part of what you're trying to do? In other words, find out who the regulars are?
Yes. It was important for me to try to there was when the community found out we purchased this building, this hospital, I was just bombarded with so many stories of, unusual happenings and just ghost stories and things that people had experienced. So it was important for me to try to keep all of that documented so we can use it later on. And, for those ones that want to come in a ghost hunt, to find out, are they still there? What really happened to these people? Mose and the nurse, it's just two of them. I could go on, but it is, and I want to be able to preserve that and document that. A good friend of mine who's also our director of the CVB, Wes Wilson, he is partnering with me. He's the one that helped me design that website that you saw. And we're actually trying to do not only just written documentaries, but video documentaries of people that's willing to go on camera and talk about their experiences. So we're hoping to start collecting those and be able to post those on the website as well in the near future.
Now, you mentioned during the break that you're kind of having a grand opening, so you're going to be doing tours, ghost tours. Yes. You've got the pricing already on the website. Then you've got some other special events. Now, one thing I did want to, I'll let you tell about those. We might do it after the break. But okay. I did want to ask you, now, in the past, it's been used for a haunted house, Halloween haunted house. Is that something that's going to be an ongoing thing?
I'm really not sure. I like to keep it more to the historic and the paranormal side of it. But I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to my business partner. We're talking about things that, that the community would like to see. But I'm very big on keeping it. I think a lot of people really enjoy just hearing the stories of what happened to the people. I mean, you can walk through these halls. I don't have to have anything jump out at you. You can walk through these halls and feel and know that you're not alone. So, I'm not saying that's not going to be, in the future, but for right now, I'm leaning more towards just keeping it and just events, holding a few events.
I respect that greatly. I kind of ride the fence on haunted houses in haunted locations. I see the side of the argument that says, was kind of disrespectful. Plus, you're making a lot of noise, and that's their home, as they say. Right. But the other thing is, now, for a lot of these locations, it is a financial imperative. In other words, to keep the tar on the roof, to keep the place in repair. Ghost hunting is a hit and miss game, especially when now. God love your heart. You're out in the middle of nowhere.
Right. It makes it even better.
So, but I do respect that way of looking at it. I just wanted to put that out there. We're going to take our next commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to let you tell us about some of the stuff that you've got coming up on the calendar. Everybody, we'll be right back with more Tonya Webb and stories from the old hospital on College Hill and Nurses College.
Everyone is talking about CBD oil, and it seems like almost everyone is using it. The research is ongoing, but the apparent health benefits are overwhelming. If you're going to use CBD products, though, what brand should you buy? First, find out where the hemp was grown. Imports are flooding the market. How potent is it? Look for a brand that plainly states its concentration on the label. And look for full spectrum CBD. This means the oil contains CBD and all the other cannabinoids, terpenes, and nutrients that are found in the entire cannabis plant. Look for Blue Leaf CBD oil. Blue Leaf Naturals is a Kentucky proud company. They use only Kentucky-grown hemp, supporting Kentucky farmers and businesses. Visit their website at blueleafcbd.com now and use the code SMILE at checkout for free shipping.
Come visit the Universal Energy Expo, May 1st and 2nd at the Northern Kentucky Convention Center. Meet special guests Shaman Coyote Chris Sutton and Psychic Southern Gypsies. Over 100 readers, healers, and vendors. Admission also includes door prizes, workshops, and all seminars. The Universal Energy Expo. Come curious, leave enlightened.
If you think Zoom calls are scary already, February 2nd sees the DVD and Blu-ray video release of Host, about 6 friends who conduct a seance via Zoom session only to unleash a demonic spirit that terrorizes them. The movie was filmed entirely in the actors' own homes, and it created a big buzz when it came out on Shudder. My question is, do demons wear pants? In 2013, Elisa Lam was reported missing during a stay at the Cecil Hotel, a place infamous for its dark history. Her body was found in a water tank on top of the hotel. Adding to the mystery was an elevator surveillance video showing Lamb behaving strangely before her disappearance. In February, Netflix will premiere a new docu-series that will explore Lamb's baffling death. Hey, does this water taste funny to you? And welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest TV. We're in the last segment of the show. We got a few minutes left, and so we're gonna let Tonya give us some plugs. But before I let everybody go, I want to tell you, I told you I took the tour of the convention center construction, and the place is going to be awesome when it's finished. It's going to be huge this year, as far as the main room. But in my own way of looking at things, there is no way they were going to have that place done for us last October, and I don't think that they could have had it done even with a little spike in activity. Have it done for Jared for Comic-Con. I just do not see it happening within the next 30 days. Now, that being said, the guys that come back 30 days, you'll be amazed, because apparently they're getting to the part of the construction that doesn't isn't quite as time consuming. But I'm going to admit now to everybody my guilty pleasure. When I go to Lexington nowadays, because I get to go so rarely, does anybody else go by White Castle and just buy a suitcase of them damn things? It's I call it decadence. There is nothing more decadent than going to a restaurant and just walking out with literally a suitcase full of what they sell. It's impossible.
Those things will kill you, Wes.
Yeah, I'll make you a deal, Chad. If that's what kills me, I will haunt any place you want me to. I always said I wasn't going to stick around, but if at the end of the day they said, "Oh, too many White Castles," I will come to your house. I'll do your mom's out, whatever you want. Anyway, okay, back to business. Tonya, yes. Tell us some of the stuff you got coming up in the place. You've got. I want to hear about this Valentine's thing.
Well, the first thing we have, we're getting ready to do a ribbon cutting ceremony and kind of open up, just to kind of let everybody know we're open for business. That happens next week, which is February the 5th at 11 o'clock. And then the first event that we're hosting is the My Bloody Valentine's Dinner and Flashlight Tour. So basically, you'll come if you want to spend a creepy Valentine's, you want something a little bit different. You'll come and have dinner at the hospital. We've partnered with some of our local restaurants, and they've prepared some really awesome meals. You'll eat there at the hospital. Then once you're done with the meal, I will take you on a 30-minute flashlight tour of some of the most the paranormal hotspots of the hospital. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I think that's a great way to spend Valentine's Day. So we got that coming up in February. Then in March, we open up for regular tours and private investigations. We're already booked pretty much for the month of March. We have some scattered throughout. And then we also have a big, huge event coming up in September. As I was telling you earlier, Tony Moran, who played the original Michael Myers in the 1978 Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween, he's been here a couple times, and we've been in contact, and he's going to marry some people at that hospital. So, and he's agreed to dress up as Michael Myers, and that's September the 24th, 25th, and 26th. So for 3 days, if you want to get married or renew your vows at a haunted hospital with Michael Myers, you can't ask for a better wedding or a vow renewal. So we got that coming up in September. We're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, you don't need to plug that. You definitely need.
Started it. I actually put it on Facebook, I think maybe a week ago, and it's already been shared. I think it's reached over 120,000 people. It really just kind of took off. So, I mean, if I were getting married or renewing my vows, I couldn't think of anybody else I'd want to do it, to Michael Myers at a haunted hospital, because Halloween 2 was in a hospital. So, and it's eerily similar to that. So I think it's going to be a great fun. So if anybody's interested in that, they can check us out on the website and give us a phone call, and we'll get you hooked up for it.
We'll remind everybody, collegehillhospital.com, collegehillhospital.com. And they've got their tours listed, their ghost hunting tours and all that. So book them up, because you got to have stuff to do this year. I'm about done. I've used up my list. Chad, you got anything you want to throw in there?
I was just going to ask, can you tell us how the tours are going to be structured? I know you said it's going to be open for some private events. But your standard tours, how are those structured? How long are people allowed in, and are they guided or turn people loose? Or tell us a little bit about that.
We have a little bit of both. A lot of the popular requests that we've gotten so far are for the guided tours. And we break it down into 2 different ones. If you want just the history of the hospital, we do those kind of tours. If you want the history and the paranormal, we have that. Or if you just want paranormal, have that as well. That'll last about an hour to 2 hours. If you're looking to do a private overnight investigation and you want to spend, as much time as you can in the hospital, basically you'll meet me there. I'll give you a brief layout and a little bit of a tour of the hospital, anywhere from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then I'll turn you loose and let you do your investigation until probably around 8 o'clock the next morning. So you'll get to spend, if you're brave enough, the entire night in that hospital to see what you can find. So we've also been asked a lot for weddings. We're going to be offering those all throughout the year for different times. Because of where this hospital is located, it's just in such a, the hills and the mountains of West Virginia, and then you've got Kentucky right across the border. It just makes for some beautiful photographs and photographers. Actually, I've been getting a lot of requests for photography tours, so we're going to be doing those as well. So we're kind of just doing a little bit of everything, but the most popular so far has been the private overnight investigations.
For people thinking about doing that, there are accommodations nearby, and
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we have a hotel. We have all kinds of bed and breakfasts, and some may even be haunted themselves. I think some of the owners would actually tell you that they are. So I could probably, if you wanted to come here and spend a weekend, I could give you a whole list of places to go and check out. But yeah, we will help you with that. We'll help you with accommodations and, restaurants, gas stations, all of that. The good thing is we're located right off a main road, so you don't have to travel out in the middle of a country to try to find us, even though West thinks we're out in the out in the middle of nowhere. We're actually only about 3 hours away from Lexington, so we're not that far. But
no, that direction. I'm sorry, I've been that direction. That's the longest 3 hours. I haven't dropped the F-bomb tonight. They'll probably put ads all over this show. um, there, I tell everybody, okay, where I live, we used to have events here on the farm, not ghost events. We had horse shows. People would show up here and they say, "Oh my God, you're in the middle of nowhere. We're 5 minutes out of town, but yeah, my experience going that direction, you can say 3 hours all you want. That's a long 3-hour drive going that direction. But
I'll take Wes up there sometime.
Tell him, Chad, you've been up there. It's not that far, is it?
Well, everybody, we're at the top of the hour. Tonya, good luck with your seminar. I don't see any reason you won't make it, although that's not my decision. But you're obviously a great presenter, and your location sounds fascinating. And yeah, one of these days, old Wesley might just load up and try to come down there and turn all the ghosts loose because I'm sneaky like that. That's about all I got tonight. I am so off my game tonight. I think it's all the White Castles I ate.
You cut your hair.
Yeah, and I cut my hair. I'm like Samson.
Yeah,
you know,
the game's gone.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. You've been great to talk to.
Yes, it's been a lot of fun. And once again, and good luck with the hospital, because I love seeing these old places preserved in any capacity. It doesn't happen often enough. Everybody, this has been Scarefest Television.